I think we did 8 or 9 month stints a couple of times without seeing each other.
Trust issues are another thing.
It can actually make the relationship worse.
Thoughts may kind of fester in your mind.
I do think there's one key factor that if you can't quite get it right, everything else is going to start to break down.
Both of us have experienced long-distance relationships. We're both married now to American men, but there was a process in the romance stage and in the visa stage where we had to live apart for an extended period of time.
My husband and I lived apart for 3 years, from the time that we met to the time when I eventually moved out here to get married. We did obviously visit each other, but very often there were very long stints. I think we did 8 or 9 month stints a couple of times without seeing each other, which is hard.
For me, initially, we lived in the UK for a few months and then we came over to the US. And for the visa process, I had to be in the UK for a whole year while it was being processed, and my husband was living in the US.
I do think there's one key factor that if you can't quite get it right, everything else is going to start to break down within a long distance relationship, particularly, which is a lack of effective communication. But you might be sitting there thinking, well, that's all well and good. What do I do about it? How do I become a better communicator with my partner? Fear not, we have some suggestions. Be open and honest, even if it's painful or uncomfortable, or you might not be used to doing it in physical relationships. It might not be your comfort zone. It's really important in a long distance relationship because if you're not communicating with your partner, they're going to end up on a completely different page. They're going to move further and further away from you emotionally, and also in terms of maybe where you see your future as well.
Yes.
So it's really important to suck it up and just be honest about how you're feeling, how your day's going, how you feel about the relationship. Do you have any issues with how your partner's behaving? Just talk about it.
I think it's also important, because it's a long distance relationship and it may be going on for some time like that you actually define what your goals are with this relationship. Is your ultimate goal in the end to stay together and maybe get married? Is your goal for one of you to move over to the other one's? Is that clear? Does the other person realise what your thoughts are on the relationships, and do you know what theirs are? I think you should define to the other one what the relationship is and what the future of that relationship, all being well, is.
Yes. I think it's really important to, even more so than when you're in a physically together relationship, to express your love and affection, even if it feels soppy, if it's not like your way. My husband and I got in the habit when we're in a long distance relationship of just saying I love you all the time. Like we would say it all the time, and we still do it. Like we'll walk past each other in the corridor and be like, love you. It's a habit that we got into, but it's just like that reaffirmation?
Reaffirmation.
It reaffirms that you're both in this together and it's still what you both want. You can't express your love in a physical way, which might be a way that maybe more people are, or some people are more comfortable with. So you have to learn to do it verbally. It doesn't have to be saying I love you every 2 minutes if that doesn't feel natural.
No, whatever feels natural for you, really.
Yeah, you work on your own language. Active listening, very important. It's not all about talking. Someone's got to be listening, and it's got to be both of you at certain times.
I remember telling my husband off because he's got more than one screen at his computer and he was obviously watching the game at the same time. It was a very important discussion I was having, my end.
Yeah.
He didn't give me his full attention. That did niggle me a bit. Or he'd try and call me during the work day and then, oh, just a minute, I've just got to answer that email. And you think, I've got 100 million things to do, you know. It's all well and good responding quickly, but if you haven't got time to actually talk, or you haven't got the inclination to want to sort of give up some time to talk, then it can end up being worse.
It can actually make the relationship worse if you're on a call together, for example, and like you say,
maybe a bit cross.
Exactly. I think if this goes on for a long time without actually having dedicated specific time where it's just about the two of you, the relationship will inevitably suffer. You need to try and make sure that you are listening, especially if your partner's trying to be, as we say, open and honest and maybe a little bit vulnerable, and you're doing something else. Well, you can't ask too much of people, can you?
No.
They're not going to do it again.
No.
I think it's very important to leave nothing unresolved. No unresolved issues on your calls, because what can sometimes happen is you've had maybe an angry word with your long distance partner and you hang up, and that's then allowed to fester. You know, when you don't see them 10 minutes later or whatever it is, just around the house, it can be very easy to let those things just kind of eat away at you. I can't believe he said that. And so I think it's very important, as much as you can, I know sometimes you might have to go, but as much as you can, to be like, okay, we're either going to put this conversation on hold until later, or we need to resolve it now. Because if you don't, I think it can lead to a lot of hard feelings that are blown out of proportion. We're very lucky in this modern world that there are so many ways to communicate with people we don't see every day.
It would have been awful back in the day if you just had to write a letter.
A letter!
By the time they receive the letter, the news is old news, isn't it? It is very romantic, and it's lovely receiving a letter, so you can still do that, but it's instant nowadays, which is fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah.
And sometimes if you're on FaceTime or Skype or Zoom, it's almost like you're in the room with them, although you can't touch them, but the quality is usually so good, video quality and sound quality.
Yeah, absolutely. We are spoiled, really, in terms of the variety of ways that we can communicate with each other, and I think that's good for adding depth to your relationship. You can have a quick call, you can text, you can share social media posts. There's more ways of doing it than just the written word.
So you can do things like play games. You can sort of watch a movie at the same time, can't you? You could watch a movie and talk about it.
Yeah, we would very often put the same movie on at the same time.
Yeah.
Because it just takes the pressure, with saying
you don't have to talk all the time.
Yeah, like we've been telling you how important it is to communicate, but sometimes it can get exhausting, and sometimes you just want to feel like you're in someone's presence. That easy feeling that when you're comfortable with someone. So like just putting a movie on might be a good idea, and then just mute the other person so you don't get the feedback. It's just, a little way of trying to feel quote unquote normal.
Yeah, and having that shared experience at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Trust issues are another thing. You're not with that person all of the time. What are they doing the rest of the time? And if you're not communicating enough or effectively, thoughts may kind of fester in your mind, or you have to keep cancelling your calls for some excuse. It can lead to feelings of mistrust.
Yeah, and that's when it comes down to, I think, also being a great listener when you are on those calls or when you are giving time to your long distance partner. You really are present with them and doing what you can to reassure them, because doubts are, I don't want to say inevitable, but they're almost inevitable in a long distance relationship. You obviously see something great in your partner, other people are going to see something great in your partner as well. And it's very easy to feel like you're not actually able to be enough for someone when you're not there. Things like different time zones can cause a huge issue, different schedules. For half our day, they're asleep when we're in the UK and they're in America. Our husbands were in Arizona. It's an 8-hour time difference. The temptation, at least for me, was to stay awake late into the night so I could talk to him for longer. But then, of course, you still have your next day. So I had to, hopefully without sounding harsh, try and explain to him I need to be in bed by a certain time, really, in order to be able to carry out what I need to do effectively the next day. Had I not been able to communicate that to him, it would either lead to me being very tired, or it would lead to him feeling not important, because I'm like, right, I'm off to bed. See you later. See you later kind of thing. So yeah, that's just one example of where communication can be so important.
In a way, it's a good idea to plan a special time each day or every other day when you get together and have a video chat or whatever. Having that set time keeps it going. Having said that, if you're too rigid, it can have the opposite effect and the spontaneity is gone. If you're just dating and not living together, you won't necessarily see each other every day.
I think it is important to be conscientious of your partner's schedule. It's natural that you would miss them and you would want to talk to them, but they obviously have their things that they need to do as well. You don't want to necessarily add pressure for them to speak to you at awkward times or for longer than they're able. Okay, this is my life and my schedule, and they've got their life and their schedule.
So say you went out for the day with a friend, just say, you'd be sort of looking at your watch thinking, oh God, I've got to be home for my FaceTime chat. And that puts pressure on you, and then you might feel resentful of that you've got to leave early.
There obviously has to be some kind of time when you communicate, but I think it is, as you say, important to have some flexibility in that.
I think it's really fun to plan something together, like say a trip. Both of you sort of input into it and talk about it and get excited about it. Something that you can look forward to doing together and plan for in the future.
For sure. I think the hardest times that I remember were when we didn't have like an end date of when we were going to see each other again. And it just felt like it could stretch on forever. Whenever we had a date, it changed the whole dynamic of the long distance relationship. Like, oh, 57 more days.
But it's the little things going along that you have to try and make fun.
Yeah, exactly. The little things are important to celebrate, the little milestones.
Yeah.
Oh, we've been doing this for 2 months now and look how well we're doing. You
Yeah.
know? It's a really big achievement. To do long distance for any length of time, I think is a big achievement. It's very important to celebrate those successes together.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Please let us know your experiences of a long distance relationship. Do you agree with us? Is communication the hardest aspect to deal with and the reason that your relationship might be struggling? Or do you think there's something else involved in this? Why not let us know in the comment section below?
If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like, maybe share with a friend, and subscribe to us on YouTube.